My favorite episode of the entire year. This one. Yeah.
Is that because it's a holiday? Because I don't even...
I never got to celebrate Halloween when I was a wee lad. Because, you know, church and all that stuff. They used to torture us. They used to put us in funny looking robes and give us, you know, like shepherd staffs, and we had to go door to door and say, "Give and you shall receive," and then the preacher would scoot us aside and be like, "I want to talk to you about Jesus." So that's what that was. I have sort of a, I guess that is kind of a horror story, so it is appropriate for Halloween, right? And then we slaughtered the families, and that's how it ends every time, right? Halloween's not really about death, is it? It's about supernatural. I don't know. Samhain. I don't know. Shamwain? Is that what it is? The old German thing? I don't know. Oh, I'm going to announce the new Zweihander stuff. So, guys, the new Zweihander album is out like right now if you're watching it on Saturday. Tomorrow, Friday, we're shooting this on Thursday. Maybe. So, the new album is out. Worked a lot on it. I was up till like 5 in the morning last night finishing up a few songs. So, yeah, I'm happy with it. I hope you guys are happy with it. And thanks to everyone who sent in the video dancing. All right, no more fooling around, everybody. Let's get down to the news this week. We've got some Google news. Fiber's coming to a few new cities. We've got police doing strange things in Europe. And we've also got, in the UK specifically. So a couple interesting articles about the UK. We've got a runaway military blimp. The one that was spying on everyone in Maryland is just floating around now. What a catastrophe. We've got plenty of stuff. We've got a new OnePlus phone to talk about. We've got some AMD products that, actually the drivers getting updated. So, and then just watch. I don't like doing this stuff in the beginning. It's no fun. And another super collider being built by China. And we're also going to talk about Fallout 4 and Nvidia GameWorks. So yeah, all that right now on this show you're watching. Honda's got a hydrogen fuel-powered vehicle. There it is. The hydrogen... What's it? I forgot that they updated it. It's called the Honda Clarity. Did I say... Yeah, the Honda Hydrogen Clarity. There's the Clarity. So, Japan, they're kind of pushing for this hydrogen thing, but, you know, there aren't many people talking about hydrogen, and there's a reason for that, and I think Elon Musk says it best.
Because I just think that they're extremely silly.
So they're right there. He cracks me up. So yeah, Elon Musk says that hydrogen is extremely silly. It's very difficult to contain, very difficult to produce, very dangerous because it's flammable, like really freaking flammable. The energy required, is a very bad process. So it doesn't make any sense to him. I'm not sure. I mean, Honda says that their vehicle is more efficient, and now the hydrogen fuel cell is small enough. It's like the size of a V6 engine, but. I don't know.
The article says that, but then you get into the details, and it's like, well, it does take up most of the trunk, but there should still be enough room for a bag of golf clubs. And it's like, what? Wait a minute, what? Are you guys saying that the innovation here is that the hydrogen fuel tank is no longer the size of a tractor trailer? Because I got news for you, that's not good enough. And then you get farther down in the article, and it's like, oh, there's also a lithium-ion flat pack, and it's like, what? That's a battery. That's not anything to do with hydrogen. What's that talking about?
So why the big push for hydrogen? That's what I don't understand. I mean, Japan, declaring that they're going to try to become, or Toyota in Japan says that they're going to try to move toward hydrogen vehicles in the next, 15, 20 years. And now we've got Honda that's already making a prototype. And maybe they meant that the size of the car is about the same size as a 6-cylinder car. Maybe that's what they meant in the article instead of saying it was about the same size when they said about the same size as a 6-cylinder. But you know what? You're actually driving the entire, you're driving around a hydrogen plant. That's what you're driving. You're not driving a car. You're driving a reaction around. That's it. Nothing else. Just that and a steering wheel.
It does. The other giveaway was... It's like, oh, we've got this super compact, high-pressure electrolysis, whatever. And it's like, okay, they are, doing some stuff with electrolysis. And electrolysis is basically where you take water, which is already burned hydrogen. And some people have said that that's not technically correct, but the hydrogen is in a lower energy state because it's got the oxygen on it, otherwise known as water. And then they use electricity to split it. And Musk says that the technology to split that is only about half as efficient as battery storage technology has gotten these days. And there must be something to that because the car also has, a lithium fuel cell or a lithium storage thing. And the article also talks about how, well, getting the hydrogen in the first place is still a little bit of a challenge. And Musk covers that because he says, if you take solar, for example, that if you were to take solar and dump it directly into a battery pack, that would be more efficient than actually sending it to the other thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think hydrogen is going to be the future of cars. I am apt to agree with Elon Musk because he's smarter than me. But, there's other reasons. Just being smarter does not make someone right. But he pretty much knows what he's talking about. But I'm not sure why they're pushing toward that rather than other technologies. But we'll see what happens. So, quick update on Google Fiber. Looks like they're going to be going to Oklahoma City, Jacksonville, and Tampa. Not on this map here, but Tampa and Jacksonville. Florida is getting some internet down there. The internet down there, I guess it's much like a lot of the other places in the South where you have primarily Comcast and data bandwidth caps have been rolled out. So Google Fiber could really help some of the communities down there. Florida's already having a rough time because it's Florida, but I love it when, like John Oliver or Jon Stewart or any other guy named John on television talks about Florida. It's just joke after joke. So I'm sorry for everyone that lives in Florida because it's all true. And we feel your pain. But now you guys are going to have, Google knows this. They looked at it and they're like, oh man, poor Florida. All right, we'll give them some Google Fiber. Maybe the businesses can, use it, expand. The communities will be better. Birds will sing. Bees will have sex with trees. Whatever they do, I don't know. In a perfect world. So also Oklahoma City, and you see that Seattle is not a bump on there. There's 7 people in Seattle that have gigabit. So hello, 7 people that have gigabit in Seattle. You guys are cool. I'm so frustrated. I'm ready to move to Portland. So I'll give you guys a quick update on that. I've been looking for houses until I'm ready to pull my hair out. And thank you guys. A lot of you guys have been sending me suggestions. Just hold off on a lot of the suggestions. People have been tweeting, hey, have you seen this house? Have you seen this place? Have you looked at this area? Yeah, I've seen pretty much everything. I've got 2 realtors now, and they don't know about each other. I'm cheating on them.
Probably.
And I don't care. It's just that one of them can't find the thing I want. So every time I find something that's what I want, like in the woods with the mountains, 2% or 2 megabit per second internet around here. So Seattle doesn't have the good internet in the woods. You have to live downtown, which is fine. But I don't know. I feel like I can maybe find a more wooded area in Portland. I'm going to look everywhere now. We have to find a permanent base. Kane is coming. We need more space. We've got a lot of projects to do. And we've got to find a permanent base.
Could you maybe get an apartment building and then renovate the roof so that it's like this glass terrarium with trees and stuff? It would be like bringing the forest to you. But then it would be in the city so you could get really amazing internet.
Yeah, that might be what I want. I got used to New England, whereas you live in the middle of nowhere. You still have access to amazing food, amazing beer, pretty laid back, liberal-minded people. And then, you come to a place like this and it's the reverse. It's like regular America where the cities have most of the culture. And then you go outside of the cities and it's like nice people, but totally different culture that I don't exactly jive with. So I'm either going to have to go back to Vermont or Austria to get that, or I could do what you just said and bring the forest to me. I got to have my trees, man. I would lack for inspiration without those trees. Some people don't understand it, and I don't expect you to. Some people just need a wall of monitors in a nice cold basement, and that's perfectly fine. We all get stimulated in different ways. And that's what makes the world a beautiful place, is that all of us are different, right? Come on, someone play some soaring music or something. Make us happy, right?
I can't say anything because I live in the middle of the forest, but I have the office for everything else, so.
Oh, yeah, should have stayed in Kentucky, but I couldn't hire as many people in Kentucky. Also, I can't even tell you guys, it's a secret. Oh, God, it's a secret. But it's some good things have come out of moving to Seattle. But there's secrets right now. I'm sorry.
All you need is a brick and steel apartment building, and then we'll just put a terrarium on the roof, and you'll be all set.
Yeah, I'll never come out. It'll be like, he's in there climbing trees and reading books. Or whatever he does. I don't know what I do. I don't even know who I am anymore. So more Google news. I'm in a mood right now. I'm kind of happy about Zweihander being finished. So Google is threatening action against Symantec. I'll let you go ahead and talk about this one for a minute because I've been rattling on. But their SSL certificates are coming from third parties.
So it's like, okay, Symantec is a security company, and Google has figured out that Symantec has issued SSL certificates for Google.com that are not legit. And so Google has said to Symantec, hey, what did you do? What's going on? Why did you issue SSL certificates for Google.com? And apparently Symantec, in true large company fashion, has completely screwed up the internal audit to try to figure out what happened. And so they don't know. And so now Google has said, can we audit like every SSL certificate you've ever issued? Because clearly you don't know what you're doing. And I just really enjoy looking at the mess of the situation that is, because, you know, Google will probably get their way. Not that that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but it's really, really bad that Symantec as a security company has done this in the first place. And it is egregiously bad that Symantec has screwed up the audit to the point that they don't know. It's almost like, you know, that the intelligence organizations or something would have had to be the ones to ask for these SSL certificates, and Symantec's just under a gag order. And it's like, well, you know, the NSA came to us and said we needed some Google.com SSL certificates so we could do man-in-the-middle attacks on Google, but, you know, nobody's devices would notice. And, you know, that's probably not it, but that might be it. I don't know. I mean, you know, never attribute to malice what can be explained by incompetence, but at the same time, if you've eliminated incompetence as a thing, maybe it is malice. I don't know. It's just kind of funny.
It's freaking Symantec. Oh god, it's wonderful. Let's go over to the UK for a little bit, shall we? Hey everybody, you guys just waking up and having your toast? What do you eat over there? Porridge? I'll pour that porridge down your pants if you don't pay attention to what we're talking about right now. This is important stuff right here. The UK government, so this is kind of funny. They are really worried about the whole end-to-end encryption movement that's happening right now. And you've got David Cameron over there saying things like, you know, this is really troubling because we're going to allow a safe place for terrorists and pedophiles. It's always terrorists and pedophiles because that is what you cannot argue with. Because, come on, if you argue against terrorists, you can be like, well, you know, the terrorists, maybe they have a point. It's hard to figure out who's the good guy and the bad guy because perspectives. And then it's like, okay, well, we know you're a terrorist now because you're a sympathizer, so you can't really argue about that, you know. And then as far as pedophiles go, if you argue about that, you're either a pedophile, you're an enabler, or you're just a monster. So there he is again, presenting these arguments that cannot be argued with. And he's really worried about the encryption, but they don't want backdoors into things. They don't want backdoors, and that's not what they want. They want to make sure that, you know, like, listen, because backdoors have become like a bad word when it comes to international business and that sort of thing. Oh, the NSA has backdoors into these routers. We can't trust, you know, Cisco or Linksys anymore. That's bad. So bad for their business. So they are very careful not to use that phrase or that word. What they're saying now is that, like, listen, we just need access. We want to make sure that we have access. So they're worried about encryption. They don't want a backdoor. They just want access. So they want all the companies to freely give up stuff when the government asks for it. They say with a warrant, but we know how that works. You know, warrants are just. Let's see here. I'm gonna write warrant on this napkin, and you're gonna give this to me, or there's gonna be problems.
We've got this new thing called an administrative subpoena, where it's just not even a warrant at all, and it's like, oh yeah, you got to give that over. Oh, and you can't talk about it either because if you talk about it, that's also illegal. And it's like, what year is this? What's happening?
It's clearly 1984. Speaking of 1984, I want to.
Manual.
Speaking of 1984, look at this blimp. We're moving back to Pennsylvania. This is giant military blimp here. This thing's freaking hilarious. It's not hilarious. It's a multi-billion. $2.7 blimp right there. It's actually a balloon from Winn-Dixie. Who lives near a Winn-Dixie?
Well, with the helium prices lately, that's probably about right.
Anyway, a $2.7 billion program. This blimp, they were floating this above Maryland, and the idea was they had some really powerful cameras that could see like 350 miles in each direction. That's about 7,000 kilometers for you guys in the other country. And so yeah, could see really far and take pictures as far as like Washington, D.C., just up there in the sky, surveilling everything. Well, that's shocking that they're using our tax dollars to watch us, which is just what we wanted. But they're doing it, and they're testing this in a corridor that has, it's a hotspot for activities, and they're not looking for us; they're looking for the bad guys. So it's okay, right? But they're testing it there, and they were thinking about rolling it out everywhere. It's turned into a huge fiasco, wasted $2.7 billion, and now it's just floating somewhere over Pennsylvania. Could someone shoot this thing down? I know you guys in Pennsylvania have rifles. I mean, hell, every time I go there, everyone is dressed in camo, even the people at coffee shops and stuff. It's like, you guys have to have rifles. Shoot it down, would you? Come on.
Shoot our 2.7. It's like we've got a $2.7 billion blimp that can tell you, the license. It can read the newspaper headline off of a newspaper on a park bench in like New York City from Pennsylvania, but we didn't bother to put a GPS unit on it. I mean, how it's just what kind of I want to read this to you, because what kind of a dystopian future do we find ourselves in when a post like this makes sense? Because this is, I mean, I couldn't make this stuff up. In a Facebook post, Aberdeen Proving Ground notes somewhat alarmingly that approximately 6,700 feet of tether are attached to the wayward blimp. And then in the frequently asked questions thing on their webpage, it says, can the tether break? And the paragraph there says, well, the chance of that happening is very small because the tether is made of Vectran and has withstood storms in excess of 100 knots. However, in the unlikely event that it does happen, there are a number of procedures and systems in place that are designed to bring the aerostat down in a safe manner. So I think what we had happen here was they spooled 6,700 feet of tether on a spool, and they just didn't plan for what happened when they let the blimp go 6,700 feet. They were like, oh, we're at the end of our tether. I guess we should have tied that off, huh? But it was on a spool, so... I guess it's like...
The worst part is, the material is very strong and everything, but they attached it to the bottom of the blimp also using duct tape. So nobody took that into account. They don't talk about that. They're just like, the material's very strong. Yeah, it should hold. Just tape it on there. Great. I'm hyper today. Let's talk about this encryption, shall we? Let's Encrypt. This is pretty interesting. It's a free, automated, and open encryption software. So, Wendell, you telling me we can go get a certificate for free here? How does this work?
Yeah, Let's Encrypt's goal is to become a trusted certificate provider. So the other people that provide the trust them, and then they will issue SSL certificates on an as-needed basis to anybody who would like to have an SSL certificate. This is important for a couple of reasons. One, it means that average Joe can have an SSL certificate. But you may be saying, well, what about websites and all this sort of thing? Well, historically, SSL technology meant that every website that had an SSL certificate had to have its own IP address. But for the last 10 years or so, there's been a new technology called SNI, which will allow multiple websites to share an IP address and also have an SSL certificate. Now, of course, Internet Explorer didn't support it because Internet Explorer, but recent versions of Internet Explorer do support SNI. So with Let's Encrypt and the free SSL certificates, there is no reason that every website could not be encrypted overnight. It's just that the certificate distribution business from all of these companies is a lucrative one, and they don't really want to give up that source of revenue. And so Let's Encrypt has faced more political boundaries and political problems than technical ones, but they seem to have solved both the technical and the political problems, and it's paving the way for SSL certificates for everybody. But because they are a single SSL provider, at some point in the future, if the root people choose to revoke their certificates, it will single-handedly take out every Let's Encrypt certificate that there is. And so this is, I fear, some leverage against Let's Encrypt that could be used in the future. But barring that, this is actually a good thing for the internet, this is a good thing for privacy, and this is a good thing for end users in general.
They're going to have to work on a few different things. I mean, it's this easy. I mean, this shows you the different rules on how to get it, how to get all this stuff set up. It's that easy. So the other companies are selling something that's that easy, and they're selling it for a pretty decent premium. I mean, like ours is like $50 a year or something like that. Actually, I know that we're self-signing, but I don't know. It's cheap, but people are still selling this stuff. So that plus like what you just said, being single signer, they're gonna have to work on those two things. So I want to say thanks to all of our Patreon supporters right now. It's getting up there, so thanks a lot. This will be uploaded as an audio thing soon. Also, Wendell, did you notice that Google Play now has a podcast built in? So as soon as we finish our RSS, which is almost finished, we're going to publish it there, as well as it'll be on. You can get it on iTunes, or some people have mentioned SoundCloud. Let me know if you guys want it on SoundCloud, because I will use some of this money to pay for the premium SoundCloud if more than a few of you want it that way. So, Also, Kane is on his way here, so that'll help to expand. We got good stuff coming up. WASD came back, much to the chagrin of those who can't deal with games. I don't know, but I had a ton of fun making WASD. So we had mixed comments. Some people were like, "Makes me really happy to see you two together doing a show," and then other people were like, "Wow, you guys must hate each other." So some people, I don't think they can read our chemistry correctly. It's like, We're just doing a show. I'm wild and pretty energetic, and she is more of an introvert and quieter. So next time I'll make sure she's good and drunk before we do the show. That way she's wilder to match the energy.
The social lubricant.
Yeah. That's all you're seeing, if anyone saw that, was that I'm high energy and I was trying to keep my energy low as to not shout over top of her because I'm considerate, That's all. Hell, if I didn't like her, she wouldn't work here. People were like, you guys hate each other?
Meanwhile, we yell at each other.
You bastard. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, we did sign up with the premium ad network, and that's not going as well as it should be going just yet. So thanks to everyone on Patreon, you really keeping us alive.
We won't be buying that volcano layer anytime soon.
Yeah, I was like, hey, a premium ad network. Everyone else is doing great on it, and then at the end of the end of the week or the end of the month, I'm like, hey, we're making less than we made with AdSense, and they're like, yeah, well, we take a cut of AdSense, and I was like, that's all you do? And so I think right now we're trying to figure out how to get onto their premium ad network so we can get their better ads or whatever. And they were like, well, here, you can shill this shit, and I was like, we don't shill shit. Shill shit? By the seesaw. That's how Sean Connery does his business these days. I don't know. Let's just move on. Our store, check that out. It's already up. The November design of the month is already on the website. We've got a little special going on right now. So we're going to do something really interesting for you guys. Tesla, by the way, is the design of the month. There he is. We decided to make this one a little bit brighter. The Einstein version was muted and people complained. I liked it muted. It was kind of a shadow. But we said, you know what? Let's make the Tesla one brighter and easier to see. So there's that. We've got a lot of new stuff coming in the store for you guys. Now, here's what we're going to do. We've got this one online, and we have the Yes We Can shirt online. We're going to leave both of those online until November the 1st. And the reason being is because on November the 3rd, John, the t-shirt guy, is going to be printing all of these shirts. All the shirt of the month is print to order. That way we don't have any excess, and he prints them twice a month, on like the 1st of the month and like the 15th of the month. So he's going to print these on the 3rd. If you order one of each, in any style, that you can get the girls' design or the girls' shirt, you can get the men's shirt, you can get the long sleeve shirt, you can get the tri-blend. If you get 2 of those before the 1st, we'll print them on the 3rd and ship them out to you, and we'll also refund you $10 just to say thanks. So why not? And the Cane shirt's been doing well. There it is. Last chance to get this guy. He'll be going away a couple of days, but it might be cool. $10 back. Why not? I think it's fun. We have a lot of stuff coming up. We've got some new mouse pads coming in soon. So just keep checking back. The store is always growing. And it also is another thing that helps keep us alive. So if you want to show your support, that's a good way to do it. And then Patreon is a really good way to do it too. Plus tech support on the website. Just a lot of different ways. We're thankful for you guys, and you guys are thankful for us. It's a big pile of thanks. All right, you think it was Thanksgiving and not, I guess no.
Not
Native
Halloween.
Americans were calling Halloween, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, the more you guys do, the more we can do. So there's that. So
I'm going to skip over this article about Facebook expanding their search to all their posts because I don't care. Yeah, you can now search through all the posts on Facebook. Good, whatever. Let's talk about CISA for just a minute. It passed, and now there's really nothing stopping governmental bodies from watching everything. Just pretty much, it's an anti-terrorism. Everything's always anti-terrorism, or it's a security, internet security bill, whatever.
Well, CISA,
no, it's not.
CISA's passed the Senate. We've still got a ways to go.
Right.
Before
it passed like with flying colors.
Yes, it absolutely passed with horrifying flying colors. And,
I don't expect any resistance anywhere else, but unless Obama vetoes it, that's the only resistance that I expect at this point. I thought that the Senate would have been the place that stopped it. So now that's why I'm saying, like, all right, that's it, But
there's a lot of parallels between CISA and the stuff that's going on that we mentioned earlier with UK, with what's happening in the UK. Not the let's use the terrorism laws to seize the journalist's laptop.
Where's
but
that?
More about, we might have skipped it, in which case we'll cover it next.
I'll get ready for it.
But it's more about information sharing. And so what's going on in the UK is also about information sharing and the intelligence organizations capturing all the communications and building a global profile and they don't necessarily care who you are individually, but they do want an entry for you in a database. And so if you individually catch their attention, they can go then mine their database and see everything that you've ever done. This is really bad. I mean, you might say that, now today that you don't really care. I'm just watching cat pictures and doing stuff on Reddit. But remember, I think it's Voltaire. It's like, give me a few lines written by any man and I will find something in them in which to hang them. It's like your internet browsing history, I guarantee, will hang every person watching this. It's just not, it's completely unavoidable, especially things taken out of context. Mm-hmm. So imagine having that kind of thing. Imagine that you see an injustice and you want to call attention to the injustice, and then somebody has access to this database that would like for you to go away. They're absolutely going to use that as leverage against you. This is not about, it's about information. It's about control. It's not about anything else, really. And that's really scary. And your interpretation
of your interpretation of right and wrong is not their interpretation of right and wrong. What they say is right and wrong, they make up, and then they'll essentially reach a verdict first, and then use all that information to point to that verdict, and that will be what's wrong. So.
Well, look at the kid from MIT that was republishing scholarly journals. They went after him with the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and it's like it was not designed to do that. Well, it was designed to. I mean, technically, under the CFAA, if you signed up to Google with a false name during that thing where their end user license agreement said you'll use your real name, that's a violation of the CFAA in America. That's the same type of thing. Theoretically, a prosecutor could go after you. Now, are they going to go after everybody? No. But if you catch the attention of somebody that is politically connected, then they could. And that's not just. That's not something that we need in a democratic society. In the UK, it's not just for the police unit to use counterterrorism laws to seize the laptop of a journalist. This is not just. And
I don't know. Look at this guy there. Look at him. He's
obviously a criminal.
Look at his. Look at his skin color. It's slightly browner than ours, and his beard. He's got like stubble. So yeah, he's trying to keep that. A terrorist. But it's an abuse for sure.
We can't, we in the know, because we know, have a responsibility to try to protect the other citizenry because they don't know. It's like sheep heading to the slaughter. It's not necessarily that we have to be activists. It's just that because we know we have a responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. I think it's even more generic than that. I think with great insight comes great responsibility. That's not to say that you have to, you can't be you can't turn that around and make that bad, because there's a version of that where it's like, let me inflict my opinion on you. And it's like, yes, thank you. I understand your point of view, but I'm going to proceed my own way. So don't interpret it like that. But I see things like this, and it really doesn't seem like it's a good way for society as a whole to be heading.
Speaking of society as a whole, you have to be really careful in this day and age because there's a lot of shaming going on, and we've heard about all the different types of shaming. There's fat shaming and all that kind of stuff on the internet. Well, there's slut shaming, whatever. Right now, I'm seeing a lot of pop culture shaming people who are intelligent, but more people who care and people who are informed. Like, all that stuff. What are you, some kind of dweeb? What are you, a conspiracy theorist? You're a whack job? They're like, no way, dude. Let's just shake our asses and dance and drink and whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just, let's watch reality TV and veg. It's just, I'm probably not sounding like one of the kids these days, but we have to be really careful. We cannot allow that to continue, but you see it everywhere. They are shaming intelligence. It's not cool it's not cool to use correct grammar. That's not cool, dude. That's not cool.
Shut up and drink your Walmart.
Where do you think you're from, dude? Talking like that, using them Oxford words. Where do you think you're from? So we have to be careful in a society like this to not fall into that, because it's, everyone gets the whole hive mind thing. Everyone wants to be accepted by their peers and that sort of thing. And, we're going to take flack just for mentioning this stuff. People are like, oh, you guys are tinfoil hat wearers. And no, this is actually news. The guy is being, bullied by police officers. And what he's doing is he's interviewing people who were born in the West and now are members of ISIS. And so he's being bullied for whatever reasons because of that. And it's making the journalists scared to do their jobs over there. And just, us mentioning it now, it's like people are going to label us as being a certain thing. And I resent those labels, and I want to turn them back around and be like, you guys are the stupid ones. We should shame you. I'm not saying our audience, but like people who are, trying to shame us for being in the know. It's important to be in the know, and we can't let people shame us.
It's very difficult to articulate. It's very difficult to explain. It's almost like we have a fundamentally different attitude about the way that these things should be conducted. And it is more like the politicians and the people that are in power. It's like the attitude that they should have is the public has placed me in a position of trust. I must always be diligent to make sure that I'm looking out for the public good and that I'm, working for my bosses, which is the general citizenry. It's like I have been given power that I should, shun and use in a very reserved way, as little as possible, in order to just carry out my job of protecting the public interest and the public trust. It's about, delegating the responsibility of that. And so the public, because the public is busy doing whatever the public is doing, they have delegated those things to an individual. I think that people in general would go crazy if they had to micromanage every little aspect of everything. And so people have to be placed in the public trust. But it's very rare that you see a politician or anybody in any of these articles or people who are writing laws that have that mentality of, this is the public trust. The public has entrusted me to carry this out. Would the public approve of this behavior? We almost see this completely opposite behavior where we have secret courts issuing secret orders and things like the Stingray in the US, and the same type of behavior from the GCHQ in the UK, and the same type of behavior from the intelligence organizations in Australia, where they don't want anything to be public. Even though the public is apathetic, they still don't want anything to be public. And that's sort of opposite of the mentality of, the public trust. The public has entrusted me to carry out a task. I'm going to do the best that I can. If they make a mistake and they can say, well, I was trying to protect the public interest in this way and I have made a mistake, I think that's much more forgivable and it makes the politicians much more human. But instead, it's not like that at all. And that's the part that's really horrifying, because it only gets worse with each iteration, and that's not going to lead to a good place.
No, I mean, it's really easy to figure out where these politicians are coming from. I can't sympathize with them because I wouldn't put myself in the same position that they're in, but they've all put themselves in a certain position where they have to dance on the edge of a blade. And what they're trying to do is make sure that they can continue to receive plenty of money from all the lobbyists and all the big corporations, while at the same time pretending to be a different person so that they'll get reelected. Because without their position of power, they're of no use to the corporations. And it's all because we have so much money tied up in politics right now. Bribery is essentially legal in most places where, most places in the world where money is in politics. And I think it's pretty interesting. You see higher levels of corruption in societies where tipping is a thing. If you look at societies that do not have tipping, yeah, there's still corruption, but it's at a lower level. And the reason being is because from an early age, people, they grow up and they get their jobs and they do things to get money. It's all for a tip. You're being nice to get a tip. You're opening the door because you want a tip. You're carrying someone's luggage because you want a tip. You're not doing it because it's your job and you're trying to do a good job and you're trying to do the right thing. You're doing it to get a tip. And look at those countries. Those are the ones that have higher levels of corruption because, of course, you train them. They're like dogs. And then when they get older, they keep doing tricks to get money. Take a look at all that, would you?
I'd like to think about, it's like we see all this stuff about, we need surveillance and we need all this stuff. I like to think about, it's like, okay, if we continue down that path, we just continue blindly down that path, what's the logical conclusion? It's like, all right, suppose there existed a future in which you could get a subcutaneous implant, that is an implant under your skin that you couldn't remove, that was basically an explosive. It's like you get that at birth, and the powers that be are, okay, yeah, and it's like, oh, this guy is probably going to do a school shooting, or oh, this guy's in the middle of a school shooting, or oh, this guy has done, whatever, is currently in the commission of a crime, or is currently getting ready to shoot people. It's like, oh, well, we'll just call up his thing and blow him up. It's like, all right, that sounds good. A lot of people would argue that that's probably not a bad idea, and that's the part that really keeps me awake at night.
Okay, if there's an awkward jump cut in there, it's because halfway through shooting the tech the first time, I pressed a button somewhere. I don't know what I pressed, and it muted my mic. I didn't even know that was. I don't know.
My earbud switched ears. There we go.
Yeah.
Continuity error fixed.
Well, if smell was part of the continuity, I smell like tripe right now. I just had to go feed the dog, and we feed her like raw meat because she's a freaking little mini wolf. And this is not your child. Some people out there keep emailing me. Don't feed him raw food. This is not your child. You can't tell me what to feed my child. This is not. It's not mine. It's a Pistol's child, but and it's healthy. It's the portrait of health. All right, let's move on and talk about Coreboot, Wendell. This is a pretty interesting UEFI replacer. So what's this do?
So I forgot if we talked about the journalist or not. So we'll just mention it again.
We mentioned him a little bit, yeah.
There is a journalist in the UK that had his laptop confiscated because he's a journalist. Oh, I'm sorry. It was under the anti-terrorism laws because apparently he was writing a story about terrorists or something. And
yeah.
Makes
Journalism's not illegal yet. Not yet. They're working on that over there. I don't know.
So that was the UK. One interesting approach you can take if you're a journalist is maybe making sure that your technology is as out there as possible, or as atypical as possible.
Wait a second. I thought esoteria was illegal over there in the UK. I thought esoteria was just like the EU laws are going to override that, and the porn filters are going to go away soon. Everybody over there in the UK, but that's sort of a non sequitur, sort of. Anyway,
that's probably what is desirable here. Because I can't imagine. I mean, even the BBC is like, he's a BBC journalist. He works for the BBC, and it's like, yeah, let's take his laptop. He might be a terrorist. It's like, what? Coreboot replaces your UEFI. So you guys are, if you're watching the tech, you probably know what UEFI is. But UEFI is the thing that sort of gets your system up and running from you apply electricity to the CPU, and then step 2 is that the UEFI has to do stuff to then read your operating system from whatever your drive is and dump it into the CPU to get it to do stuff. And so the UEFI sort of is the first thing that happens that sort of bootstraps the hardware, gets the hardware up and running. Well, Coreboot is an open source UEFI, and it supports a bunch of things. I think like 200 devices at this point, and there's a database of those on their website. But if you're a journalist, a Chromebook will probably do most of what you need to do. So it's a nice low-cost device. A Chromebook outfitted with Coreboot is probably pretty secure against things like confiscation. You add a couple more layers of esoteria there, and you actually can end up with a pretty secure setup. And if you're a journalist or anybody that doesn't want to have prying eyes where they don't belong, this kind of technology is probably something you should look into, and maybe something that we're going to do a video on very soon.
Maybe you should also show everyone how to, because it's going to be a Chromebook. Most people they link it to a Google account. We should also probably show people how to use your own server for your Chrome account, or for the account that's linked to your browser or whatever. And you can do that.
We've actually got a lot of footage for that already.
You do?
It's so many steps. It's not really, it's not. We need it to be push button easy.
Yeah, I'm stopping the bad comments now because they're all going to be like, yeah, right. You're going to secure a Chromebook. So,
I've had very good experiences running Linux just directly on a Chromebook. It's not even Chrome OS anymore. It's just Linux running on the hardware. That actually works really well.
Yeah, so you just throw this on there, and then after you put Linux on it, you're good to go. You got the firmware and the OS locked down. Then you can do a number of different things to lock down Linux. And Tor is not one of them. All right, so let's look at some hardware right now.
There's one other thing that we'll mention that just happened, which is by 285 to 281, the MEPs in the EU decided to call a vote to drop any criminals charges against Edward Snowden, which I thought was interesting.
Really?
Yes.
So
hot
what's
off the
that
presses.
Make him? What does that? What does that make him?
They're just 200 by 285 votes to 281. They are saying to the member states of the EU to drop any criminal charges against Edward Snowden. We'll see what materializes.
So who are we going to bomb next?
Apparently, these 285 EU MEPs need some freedom in the form of heavy munitions.
Let's liberate them, much like you liberate things in Broforce.
What was that
Liberated.
awful cartoon where it was like, form of something, shape of something else?
I don't remember. I don't
It's
know.
like America's forces combined, form of democracy, shape of atomic nuclear weapons drop.
Sounds like the Transformers. I don't know, or the Megazoids or something. I don't know. I
don't remember. I don't remember enough details. Something about magic rings. It's all, it's all a haze.
Magic rings and haze.
It's probably why I can't stop watching, comic book movies these days. And just, it's like, I don't like Hollywood, but I've got to keep giving you money. I don't know. I was programmed from a young age, and I just can't overcome it.
Well, it's because America is devoid of its own mythology. So we have to use comic books are our mythology, and 3 or 4,000 years in the future, people are going to dig us up and be like, "Look at the gods they worshipped, Spider-Man." So.
Well, while Spider-Man and the comic books are interesting, and that's true to a degree, I still believe that cartoons like He-Man and G.I. Joe were conceived of and executed entirely by the marketing arms of toy companies, which succeeded brilliantly in programming young children. So
just in this conversation, I realized that when they do dig us up and look at all this stuff, they're going to be like, wow, what a bunch of chauvinistic, sexist asshats. Because in the future, of course, the sexes will be even. At least they hopefully will be. They will be equal. And then they're going to dig it up and be like, He-Man? And then they've got freaking Spider-Man, Superman, and then who's this Jubilee? She shoots fireworks? What kind of shit power is that? So, yeah. Anyway, let's just move right along here. The OnePlus X smartphone is released with some interesting features. The OnePlus X is going to be launched in India, but it'll also be available in other markets, and it's going to be a less expensive option. I think in the US it's going to be around $249 or something like that. Pretty good specs, 1080p and 3 gigabytes of RAM, only 16 gigabytes of internal memory, and it only shoots 1080p video. But check this out, a micro SD card slot, dude. Why can't I have that on the OnePlus 2? That's why I'm not using a OnePlus 2, and I would love to be using a OnePlus 2, but I can't. Because I was like, I'm not going to upgrade unless there's a micro SD card slot. And then I waited, and then the day came, and they were like, all right, we're going to announce it, and here it is, no micro SD card slot. I don't care anymore. So there's a number of other things that could have been cool, but they removed the NFC. Just why does this one get it? Why? Because it's only got 16 gigabytes. I don't care. You can put a 128 gigabyte micro SD card in there.
If there are any people in the audience that are working on hardware startups, let me give you a rundown of the ultimate, phone. I don't care about if it weighs a pound. I don't care. I want 40 hours of screen on time. I want 1920 by 1080 because more than that, I don't care. Probably about 4.7 inches. Got to have a micro SD slot. If it's got world mode, multiple radios, that would be great. It needs to work on Verizon and probably, AT&T and T-Mobile. It needs to work on everything. It really, really needs 40 hours of screen on time, period. Like it needs that, because that plus the Wi-Fi needs NFC. I really don't care how much it weighs. I don't really care how thick it is. As long as it will fit in my pocket, after that, it's completely irrelevant. I'd love to see a holographic OLED display where I can look through the phone, and it's like I'm looking at a larger display inside the phone. The phone looks like it's bigger on the inside, if you will. But I don't think that technology's been invented yet.
No, we're still waiting on some 12-year-olds to invent technology so that we can have 40 hours of online screen time without having to have something the size of one of those giant 1980s phones. But it's going to be like a 12-year-old savant who's like, look, I decided to use plant photosynthesis technology inside a battery, and now it lasts for 6 years. Or just something like that's what's going to happen. And then it'll be like, everyone's going to be like, well, that's not what we would have thought would have happened. And they're like, I don't know. I'm just a 12-year-old savant.
I saw probably this has been 5 years ago. I was reading a physics journal, and they'd figured out, I don't even remember, they'd figure out some kind of optical technology to make the kind of, I remember thinking when I was reading the article that this is the optical technology that we would need in order to produce a surface to make it appear as if you were looking through a window into a large box. And so, if I were to make this box with my fingers here, this is approximately the size of a phone, and I were to hold it up to my eyes, I'm looking through the box, but I can see my full 4K display, and read it. And so, but the focal length for my eyes is like, way far away. It's not an inch from my eyes. We need that technology for phones so that you look into the phone. That gives you a privacy filter, basically. One, because people at odd angles are not going to be able to see into the phone. And two, you can effectively have, a 21-inch display on your phone that is actually only 4.3 inches big because you are looking through the phone optically. This technology, where is it? It should have already been here, but it's not.
Well,
it makes me sad.
Crystal balls. That's pretty much the same technology they're using in crystal balls. We just got to figure out what these
kind of
witches
crystal ball, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. It's Halloween right now. There's going to be plenty of witches about. So maybe even a warlock or two, if they are okay with wearing eyeliner. So maybe find one of those guys and ask what they use in their crystal balls. They've been doing this for years. They know what's up. Let's go ahead and take a look at some more hardware stuff here. We've got a 4K showdown with AMD and Nvidia on SteamOS Linux. So Veronix has done a pretty interesting write-up here, and I'm still waiting on the drivers to improve. As you mean, some games you've got the Nvidia way ahead. Other games you've got AMD right up there, neck and neck with them. Like for instance, I've got Team Fortress 2. It's Nvidia's. I mean, that's a Source game, so Source games run well on everything pretty much. But I don't know if you guys want to take a look at that. The thing with Linux gaming for me is the drivers are still just too damn hard to install for a layperson. You have to, especially when you're talking about AMD. Nvidia wasn't too bad last time I installed Nvidia drivers, but the AMD ones they're finicky. They require different things. Like with the latest version of Mint, we have to mess with the kernel in order to get the proprietary newest version of the drivers going. And that was like, I got to do what? Got to do what, man? Man, I don't want to do that.
That has dramatically improved over the last year, and it will continue to improve dramatically over the next year. There are really big things in store for pretty much every layer of the graphics subsystem in Linux. And we really have Gabe to thank for a lot of this. Gabe really, he's invested a lot of money, but he hasn't really invested an obscene amount of money. But there is a lot of investment from a lot of different companies going in a lot of different directions with graphics overhauls on Linux. It would be great if they were all going in the same direction, but I'll settle for, this influx of cash, which is going to lead to, real improvements. And really solid gaming on Linux, I think, is going to get us there because, let's face it, Gabe is terrified of where Windows 10 is going and where Microsoft is going, and I can't say I blame him.
A lot of people are saying that Gabe is crazy for doing this, but a lot of those gamers are just diehard Windows fans. And you know what? They're PC gamers. They claim PC Master Race all day. But I've been noticing there's sort of a divide right now where people who are in the PC Master Race are becoming Windows elitist, and that's kind of weird to me because we're all on PC, right? Because some people
crazy like a fox.
I've been seeing people say that on the internet say Windows Master Race. That shouldn't be a thing. The PC is beautiful because it's platform agnostic. It doesn't care what you're doing as long as you're doing something. That's me adding that last little bit in there. But we're all in this together, guys. We're on the PC. We built these damn things ourselves. We were using a laptop that we were getting our work done too. So let's not be snobby about platform if we're on PC, unless you're going to be snobby about Linux because Windows is weird. But maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't even endorse that, guys. In the Linux community, be accepting of those who are less informed. Maybe I'm less informed. You guys are good, right? All right. Anyway, I don't know where we're going on this. We were just talking about. Let's just talk about this graphics insanity that you just uploaded on this three 4K monitors right here. I just want to watch the ending here because it's completely ridiculous. The amount of
I'm
pixels.
a troll. I'm trolling.
Yeah. It's not really 12K gaming, guys. Keep your whatever you guys are britches. Is that what? All right, here it is. You're driving this car in GTA. That's just what's happening right now. You are driving this car.
It's a 1-to-1 scale, so you got to have three 40-inch displays to do this. But when Kane stops by, we are going to set up a 3x3 grid for true 12K 4K gaming. Probably not really. But we might. Although, probably not. But maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
How many people want to see that? No, nothing can do that. You were playing Carball over here. You said Carball was playing it native in the video.
Carball and Source Engine are playing it native.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that's pushing about... it's like 700... It's only about 35 FPS, so it's a little choppy. But, we're talking 700 million pixels per second at about a little thereabouts. That is insane. If we were going to go for the full 60 FPS, that's 1.4 billion pixels per second that we've got to be able to push for just 3 displays. That's insane. That's completely insane. Although, I did find another article online that had the Radeon, the Furies, the new Furies, the water-cooled Furies, in Crossfire that were performing really well, because Crossfire scaling is way better than Nvidia scaling. In Crossfire scaling versus Nvidia SLI scaling, the Crossfire wins pretty well. And so it might be fun to try that, but we don't have any Fury anything, so it will be a while before we do that. But I was actually really impressed that the older generation games and Source Engine games, like the DirectX 9 is what Carball needs, and the Source Engine games basically were fine at full res, albeit 30, 35 FPS. It was playable, but it was not what I was used to. It was not the buttery smooth goodness that I was used to. But you can run it at a lower resolution, and the nice thing about that is the productivity. So if you run it full 4K for productivity, and for gaming, you can step down to 1920 by 1080 on each display, and one 980 Ti can do that no problem. Hell, 390X can do that without any trouble.
You just reminded me when you were talking about the Furies, Sapphire. Well, not even Sapphire. This is personal, Ed. If you're watching this, what's up, man? They owe me a Fury card because a while back, and then again, this is totally separate from the business. Ed's like, hey, man, you got any extra FreeSync monitors around? I'll trade something out of my personal stash. And I was like, as a matter of fact, I do have an ultra-wide FreeSync, and I'll send that over to you. So, Ed, don't forget about me, man. I really want that Fury card. If you got one in your personal stash right now, I know they're hard to come by, but yeah. Call him out in front of 1.6 million people who have watched this video. 1.6 million. Google's lying with the numbers, guys. They don't want people to know that people are watching us.
Meanwhile, Nvidia is sending Titan X's to other people to wallpaper with.
Jay has almost got the entire wall covered with old graphics cards. I keep telling him, dude, like, give those away or sell them or something. They're going to be, every day they're more and more obsolete. Not the Titans, but he's got like so many GPUs, dude. He's got like 40 Titan X's, I believe. I think that's what they've sent him at this point. So
I can't put GPUs in my Blade Centers, otherwise we would totally use them here for something. I mean, at this point, we probably would have had AI if I had everything running on GPUs.
So anyway,
GPUs won't fit in the Blade Center though. So
go check out this video, guys. It's fun. All right. Also, let's talk about the Intel. This new, it's an Intel and Micron partnership that's been going on for a while. We've talked about it a few times. Their 3D XPoint technology. That's not nearly as much fun. They're saying it's like 1,000 times faster than NAND, which, you know, I think they should have called this the dimwit. That's what I would have called it, because it's in the shape of a dim there. It is pretty much a dim, but you're no longer using the PCI Express bus. So
yeah, I think this is a non-functional prototype, but this just illustrates something important that's happening. So for cutting-edge SSDs, like the new NVMe SSDs, basically it's a PCI Express interface, because SATA is too slow. You know, we just SATA 6 too slow, get SATA Express 10 gigabits too slow. Now we're at 32 gigabit or 4 gigabytes per second, and we're doing PCI Express over the SATA Express type connector, and so we're getting the benefit of running the PCI Express lanes that way. So now with this 3D NAND, this is going to be, you know, potentially it's the Intel hype train, so you got to take this with a grain of salt. But this is basically 1,000 times faster potentially than an SSD, so not quite as fast as DRAM yet, but it is fast enough that the distinction between DRAM and storage can basically go away, at least to a certain extent. So the deal with CPUs is that, you know, the fastest memory in your CPU is the actual registers that store the operands that are actually being, you know, manipulated by the instruction set in your CPU, and then you go further out away from the CPU, and there's multiple layers of cache. You know, there's 3 levels of cache on an Intel CPU. Some server CPUs have 4 and 5 levels of cache, and then you've got the system memory, and then, you know, far beyond the system memory, you've got an SSD. And before SSDs were really in vogue, there was mechanical storage, and mechanical storage was just slower than Christmas. I mean, it was spinning Rust, for God's sake. So how fast can it be? And
you're saying this as if it's past tense. You're saying this as if it was past tense, but I'd say a lot of people are still. I mean, I've still got a few storage drives, but a lot of people are still using mechanical as their primary storage medium, I suppose.
I too have a lot of spinning Rust in my life. I wish I didn't, but I totally do.
We should
first
power up
world problems, right?
Yeah. We should power up that giant, you know, like what is it, like a 5.5 inch, but it's like this tall. That sounds like an airplane turning on.
It's right there.
Where is it?
Yeah, it's right there. Right there. I've got like 5 of these. It's like, you guys remember Louis the Liquidator from Computer Shopper? It's like my first summer job. That's what I got, and it was like 9 gigabytes of storage.
Holy shit!
Yeah, it was 9 gigabytes of storage in an era when a 250 megabyte hard drive was just obscenely large. It was like 9 gigabytes right there. I could have like every program ever written in half of Usenet. It was amazing.
Dude, but you just gave like 16 people like Computer Shopper flashbacks. They're remembering those days when the Computer Shopper came in and they just sat there and looked at all the stuff they couldn't afford and went, "Oh, holy crap." Whoa.
A couple of years later, I got the 27 gigabyte versions, which are basically exactly the same, but, it's 27 gigabytes instead of 9 gigabytes. And that was just a phenomenal amount of storage. 5.25. That thing weighs like 20 pounds. It's 22 pounds, I think, is that. And so it's a cube of insanity. Yeah, spinning Rust.
Yeah, people wanted to come over just to be in the same room with it. Can we just be in the room with it?
I definitely did not need a heater in winter.
Yeah, you guys, the AMG jokes, they're not funny compared to this.
There's actually a sticker on it that if it gets too warm, it voids the warranty. There's just a little sticker on the front that's like, warranty void if dot is gray, basically, and if the drive gets too hot, the little temperature thing goes off, and the warranty is not honored anymore because it needs that much cooling, because, hey, it spins really fast. Or something. It's got like 2 pounds of neodymium in it, for God's sake. I mean, it's crazy. It's completely insane. So yeah, there's a lot of that still in use. Not like that, but a lot of spinning Rust. This stuff, this 3D NAND stuff, we're basically saying now, PCI Express is too slow. What's the next fastest bus in the system? It's like, well, the memory bus is faster than PCI Express. It's like, great. Let's put 3D NAND on that because PCI Express is too slow. And so that is what Intel is sort of proposing to do. And they work with Oracle. And Oracle has apparently made some modifications to Oracle's database system to run this thing. And by setting it up this way, where you've got this sort of main memory-ish storage, you can have ludicrously insane speeds for your database server because of this particular setup. And of course, spinning Rust is no longer part of the equation, and PCI Express really is no longer part of the equation as far as like storage and retrieval goes, because it is too slow. So this is really interesting. It follows our pattern. What's happening on Skylake at a smaller level. One of the things we talked about with Skylake this generation, which is the new Intel desktop processor, is that the processor really isn't very much faster. I mean, if you go all the way back to the i7 2600, the CPU really isn't a whole lot slower than a modern Skylake processor. But what is faster with modern Skylake is the bus interface. DMI 3.0 basically brings PCI Express to all the peripherals, like your USB and your other stuff that's not wired in. You've got 16 PCI Express lanes that are wired directly into the CPU that bypass the DMI bus. That's really great because it's PCI Express 3.0, so that's another generation faster. You got DDR4, which is faster. And so all of this is about making all of the peripherals insanely way faster, but not really the CPU. And so this is the same thing happening in the server department, where you've got these insanely fast server CPUs, but the CPUs, we're adding more cores. We're packing in 18 cores on a CPU, but clock for clock, they're not really getting all that much faster. A lot of the performance gains come from like cache increases and maybe tweaking die a little bit, but all the peripherals are getting insanely way faster. The memory, NVMe in the server arena has been huge the last couple of generations in terms of performance improvements. And so this is the next logical step, because processors, it's hard to make them a lot faster than they are now.
Right. And we just got to cut down the bottlenecks wherever they are. And this is one of the big ones. I can't wait for motherboards with storage DIMMs. That's going to be cool. All right, Let's take a look at some science stuff that's going on right now. So everyone's looking for fusion, right? It's very difficult to do fusion. And, we've got, I think Pratt & Whitney's been working on some experiments and say they're like figuring things out and they're getting closer and closer. I'm very enthusiastic about what's going on in Switzerland right now, just because freaking Switzerland, those guys are crazy over there. The Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, they are working to figure out fusion. And one of the big problems with that is in order to make fusion, you have to heat stuff. I'm being really scientific here, right? You have to heat stuff to like hotter than the core of the sun. And you can't really contain that anywhere. It'll just melt through anything that it touches. So they're having to use magnets and that sort of thing to suspend this. And then they're going to heat it up and maybe start to figure something. I don't know what's over my head. I just get excited about science, man.
This is basically a version of the tokamak sort of reactor design, but they've designed it in such a way that they can actually try a bunch of different magnetic field configurations, and it seems like they've got a reasonable shot at doing this. The design parameters of this research project is that they're going to hopefully have around 50 megawatts of input energy for about 500 megawatts of output energy. But my fear is that the tokamak design has been modeled in the computer pretty well, and the computer models are not really super promising. But there is some experimental physics that suggests that this kind of thing might be successful. So hopefully there's been more advances since the last time that I read about this for this type of reactor. But it's Switzerland. You know, Swiss watchmakers have turned their eyes toward fusion. I hope they can figure this out. This might be where we'll get the energy to split the water atoms for the hydrogen fuel cell car that we were talking about at the beginning.
I don't know. Hopefully just doing the experiments and that sort of thing will yield something. I'll go ahead and quote, I think it's Archimedes, but you guys can correct me in the comments, who said most of the biggest... nope, I've already ruined the quote. I've already completely ruined it. It's a lot of the biggest discoveries are not heralded by Eureka. They're heralded with, that's funny. So hopefully there'll be a few moments in this where they look at it and they go, that's funny. You know, we've got a T-shirt coming out right now. It's this is in the works. It's already finished and ready to go. I'm not sure if anybody will get the joke, but it's basically an 8-bit scene that looks like it's out of a video game, like Beneath the Steel Sky or something, with like a bunch of guys working on computers in front of a particle collider, which is going to be one of our next things to talk about right here. And the only thing that the shirt says is one of the guys above his head says, that's funny. So a few people will get that. I just want to wear it, so I'm getting 100 of them and you guys can figure it out. Anyway, China is working on a massive super collider, and it's going to be way bigger than the one at CERN, and the idea here is to make lots and lots of Higgs bosons. Well, I mean, that's the idea here, according to abc.net.au. Yes, they're very official. They're going to make millions of Higgs bosons. But I think the Higgs boson, okay, it's extremely important, but we're getting a bit romantic when it comes to the Higgs boson. There are lots of other things that need to be worked on. There's lots of other areas that we could be putting our money. There are other things that are potentially as big as the Higgs boson out there that we're not spending as much money on because the Higgs boson generates a lot of press. It's romantic. It's called the God particle. There's some politics, I'm sure, involved as well. When we were at CERN, we took a look at axions, and those, just finding those, that could be almost as big as the Higgs boson. So, and we need to, and it's not nearly as big of a process. You know, they need more power. They need bigger stuff. They need more, more cooling, more stuff. They just need more money. That's basically what it comes down to. But a lot of it gets allocated into this. So that's my little rant there. I think the Higgs bosons are completely important, but I'm just saying there's other things that we could also get excited about. There's more fun stuff out there. Anyway, back in China, they're going to build a huge one. I mean, they're building a bigger one. I mean, it's not going to start construction until 2020, but they're already planning a bigger one in the Switzerland, France area as well. So, yeah. If you guys want to know, I have not edited the video. After I finish Zweihander, which is pretty much finished, I'm just the end of the month. It's coming out. Now it's out. I'm going to edit the CERN video and a few other videos. But what they told us, they're going to be building another one. They've got the small one there, and then it goes to the bigger one, the big collider, the big LHC, and then they're going to build a bigger one. So the idea is you get the particle going in the small one, and then it goes to the bigger one, and then once it gets enough energy, it goes to an even bigger one. So, yeah, could be cool. I'm not sure when that's going to get started, but yeah. I think it's also very cool that the Chinese government's being inclusive with this. They have scientists from all over the world coming to meet and talk about this. I'm enthusiastic. I don't know.
We need a super collider that's capable of destroying the planet, because only then can we have Bond villains.
And a Chinese Bond villain. Is there any? I haven't seen that many Bond films. Are there any Chinese Bond villains?
I don't know. I don't really know too much about Bond villains either. I imagine there probably is, though.
Tommy Chopstick or something. I don't know. They always have ridiculous names. So I'm going to take my hat off for a couple different countries here. First off, Morocco. They are building the world's largest solar power plant because they get about 3,000 hours of sunshine per year. So good amount of sunshine there. And yeah, they're going to be putting solar everywhere. They're planning on powering about half the country with that. We're
in 5 years, which is damn impressive.
Yeah. I already closed the article, but I want to say hats off to Denmark as well, because in Denmark, they have achieved 140% of the energy that they need with wind. So they're producing more energy than they need. They're exporting energy in Denmark with wind energy, 100% renewable wind energy, 140%. Everyone's like, oh, windmills are very inefficient. Well, they're doing it in Denmark, dude. So, yeah. So hats off to those guys. I don't wear a hat, but I would buy one and put it on and take it off because that's cool, just for you guys. You clever people. Are you ready to talk about video game stuff?
Video games.
Pillow Castle have been working on this first-person puzzle simulator thing that really messes with my mind. I'm going to take my hat off for a lot of people today. I'm impressed by this forced perspective stuff, or this perception is reality. Interesting. So you found this one. I'll let you talk about it for a minute.
So in this game, the mechanic is a little bit like Portal, where you've got to stop thinking in any kind of normal. It's like this doesn't really exist, or this can really exist. And so with Portal, you would have a wormhole basically to somewhere else. Well, the gimmick in this game is that it's perspective, and so as we go through the video or whatever, when you grab a hold of something, it's sort of fixed, but it's fixed at that point from your perspective. And so when you're going through the hallway here or whatever, you got these giant chess pieces, but if you get close to them and you hold them in front of you, it's like it's not a huge chess piece anymore. It's a small chess piece because it's all a matter of perspective. And so you can use this to sort of scale objects in the environment to be very large or very small, and you can sort of play with that mechanic to solve puzzles. It's an interesting mechanic. It's an interesting mechanic because it's not something that can possibly exist in our reality, and so because of that, I think it tickles your brain a little bit, and we just like it for that reason. It's
mind warping. I like what they're doing here with some of these puzzles. This is like, from one perspective, it makes an object, and then the object pops off of the scenery. It looks like it was a texture, and then it pops off the scenery, and it becomes usable. So, yeah, I like how it's a little bit mind-bending. That's cool. So good job, guys, at Pillow Castle. There's plenty of puzzle things out there, but a lot of them seem sort of either too derivative or just too like, oh, look, another platforming puzzle where you have to figure out how to, this one you can manipulate gravity. So, there just seems to be too much of that going on. It's interesting to see something somewhat unique like this. Also in the news, let's see here. There was that. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this whole fiasco with everyone freaking out. Fallout 4 is going to be an Nvidia GameWorks title. Now, what does that mean? Nvidia GameWorks is a suite of stuff for games, mostly lighting effects and filters that you can apply to your games and easily make them look pretty, and add God rays and fur effects and that kind of stuff. It's a lot of different APIs out there do it. A lot of different engines, graphic engines do that already. But it's basically a lot of the things that you would, if you're familiar with like Skyrim and the EMBs, a lot of that plus a few other things. For Fallout 4, let's see here, where is it? Oh, it's not even listed here, but yeah, Fallout 4. I'm not sure exactly what it's going to support, but there's a lot of titles here that have supported GameWorks. And certain titles there have been pretty botched, pretty messed up, and pretty buggy. A lot of that's been blamed on GameWorks. Some of that's been blamed, upon the developers just not making a very good game. But people are freaking out, and they're saying things like, I'm going to go buy this game on PlayStation. I'm not going to buy it on PC anymore because it supports Nvidia GameWorks. And I can't say that I'm unhappy about the disdain for Nvidia GameWorks, but not because the technology is, buggy. And I think that's, a lot of people are angry because they're worried about the technology being buggy. Let me tell you why you should be angry right now. You guys should be angry because the technology is very closed, and what they've essentially done here, and I feel like their motivations behind a lot of this have not been they're not really motivated by helping the gamers as much as they're motivated by making their cards better than the competition. So they've created these tools that work better on their cards. And yes, they tax their cards, but they're only going to tax their cards 10 to 20% versus, the FPS drop on an AMD card being 30 to 40%. So they're like, well, yeah, it hurts our card, but it hurts their card more. And now we're just going to tell all the reviewers to be sure the filters are turned on because you're not benchmarking the game correctly if the filters aren't all turned on. And that's why I'm not going to be benchmarking the game with, their new technology like TXAA. That's their newest anti-aliasing technology that's going to be replacing the MSAA and that sort of thing. I'm not going to be benchmarking games with that. I'm not going to do it.
Are you gaming to 4K on a 40-inch monitor? You don't need AA.
Nope, do not need
Of
it
any
whatsoever. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, the God rays and that sort of thing should work okay on the AMD platform. I just hope, Bethesda games are buggy. That's just the rules. If you get a Bethesda game, you're going to crash to desktop. They have not released, they've got a huge, huge staff. They're still using the Gamebryo engine. Maybe that's where the problem lies, but yeah, their games crash, they're buggy. They usually rely upon the community to fix them. They throw them out there with, if we're looking at Skyrim, and if this is a continuation of how things have been going since then, Skyrim was released as a console game on the PC. That's what happened. Crappy textures, terrible menu, like atrocious menu. So I opened it up on day one and I was like, I'm not touching this. I'm going to come back when somebody makes a new interface for this. And sure enough, there was Sky UI that came out a few weeks later, and then I started playing the game and actually enjoyed it quite a bit, and that I really needed to wait for the new textures and that sort of thing to come out because it didn't feel like a PC game. I was like, why am I playing a port? I hope that's not what they've done here. With all the Nvidia technology built on there, I doubt that that's what's going to happen just for the PC version, but even then, I'm going to wait for the modding community to fix a lot of the things. That'll be my strategy, and hopefully a good EMB will come out. Those are going to hit the performance, but EMBs are nice because people are like, oh, the game already has God rays. Well, I want exactly the God rays that I want, and I want the the color palette or the tone that I want. I want the bloom effect that I want. I want it all. I want all that to be tailored for my experience. So I'll pick the one that I like the most. That's one things I do like about the Gamebryo engine is, and all the different products from Bethesda, is they are very open to modding. So don't get any more ideas about making them paid mods or anything like that.
I really would love to see AMD get the sort of the business sense to chase down the community modders that have done a really good job with the mods and try to hook up some kind of a program where AMD would actually pay for their development time and say, okay, NVIDIA's got GameWorks, that's fine. You modder, we need some GameWorks-like functionality for, Fallout. If you'll sign a non-disclosure, we'll get you a beta version and we'll get you whatever. You get started cranking so that we've got mods ready on day one. I don't know, maybe that could happen. That might be able to happen. As long as Bethesda hasn't signed an exclusive deal with NVIDIA, which would be very bad, and if we're public knowledge, the PC gaming community would probably lynch them. Warning. But
the problem with that is that people, the solution to that is to boycott Fallout 4. And I don't think anyone's going to boycott Fallout 4. It's like the most anticipated game in the last 2 years. So what are you going to do? You're just going to get on the internet and complain and then go buy the game? I don't know the solution. I want to play the game. I don't want to boycott it. It's like, yeah, you can have this wonderful, delicious bowl of soup, but we're going to pee in it, but it's not going to affect the flavor that much. Just try to eat around the pee. Ugh. I never want to say that sentence again. I've gone and grossed myself out. It's a hearty soup. The pea stays in one area. It's like a clam chowder.
Oh Lord!
I don't know what's happened to me. Show I've ruined it. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of proprietary stuff in any way because it's not good for us. It's good for them. It's not that good for us. And I think in a grand scheme, one of the problems I would have it, say let's AMD goes and they talk to Boris, who makes the EMB stuff, he's sort of becoming disenchanted. I don't know if that's the right word, with the community as a whole. He's getting frustrated by the negative comments and stuff. But if they go get him and they tell him to make something for AMD, would NVIDIA be powerful enough to be like, all right, this game is not going to work on NVIDIA graphics cards whatsoever, and then have the game tank? I think NVIDIA could do something like that because they do own a pretty big share of the market. I don't know if they would do that or not, but it'd be kind of shitty.
My fear is that AMD's market share is being reduced to the point that those super modders are not going to have the AMD hardware necessary to do that. So I really hope that doesn't make the problem worse. There needs to be a healthy diversity, and I really do think that the engineering that is in the Fury is the future. It really is the future. And computationally, it's the superior product, but the drivers are kind of bad. the DirectX 12 support, even at this very early stage, the DirectX 12 support is much better on the Fury than the 980 Ti. The 980 Ti doesn't even have the necessary hardware to really handle more parallelization, the type of parallelization and more of the type of parallelization that's needed for DirectX 12. Just from a hardware architecture standpoint, they're kind of shoring it up with some software shims and having the CPU and the host system handle some of the parallelization, whereas the AMD solution does it all entirely in the GPU. But that's neither here nor there for today's games for performance. I mean, AMD's built something for tomorrow, whereas Nvidia is milking all they can out of the stuff today. And so, yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, I'm running a 980 Ti in this particular system, although I've still got AMD in my Linux systems. Even though it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass, I find that for me, it's a better experience on Linux.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know. It's like, that's just weird. But the Fury on Linux is garbage. But the 390X, because it's basically the 290X, is great on Linux. But
yeah, the
Linux
support for the older stuff is better. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a mess right now. AMD's got to pull off a win. They got to come back. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't want to come off as an AMD fanboy or anything. I agree with their business model more, and we really need them in the market for a healthy market, and we need them to do well because that everyone will benefit, even the Nvidia fans. And you guys who are Nvidia fanboys, you can't argue with that. So, stop your shit posting and stuff. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of the show. I want to say thanks to everybody for, again, on Patreon. That's been a huge help for us. Go ahead and open that back up right there. Huge help for us. And, the big goal for me is to get to a point where we don't have to answer to anyone except our audience. That's all I care about. I don't care about the stupid marketing people who want us to shill their stuff. No, I don't care. We're turning down, a lot, but it's all because I'm a member of this community and I'm very protective of this community, and I think that's something you get. I don't want to throw any other YouTube channels under the bus or anything, but I think some of them are out there because it's a good lucrative job, but there are a few of them out there who are there's a few different communities out there, a few different channels out there, and the people involved are members of the actual community they represent or work for or work with or whatever, and that's what I feel like we are here. And so I'm very protective of this community, and I'm glad that you guys are supporting. Keep on doing it, man, because every little bit helps, and we want to do some major awesome projects. Speaking of major awesome projects, also Zweihander, Bandcamp is going to be the primary platform, so if you guys can use that, it'll be on Epic Pants as well. You guys can use whichever one you like. The thing about Bandcamp is they take way less when compared to everything else combined. We're talking iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, all that stuff. It makes way more money, and they don't take as big of a cut. So I just pretty much ignore all that stuff. It's not going to be released immediately on all those platforms. Bandcamp and EpicPants.com will be the primary platform for this. And just writing a little review like this, like thanks man or whatever, that helps so much. That really, really helps. So thanks to all you guys. If you have time to say, write a little blurb that says thanks man when you grab the album on Bandcamp, that would help a lot. And the reason being is because it builds clout and helps the album grow to something bigger than just our audience. For instance, last time I released the Zweihander and Nitherin album, it was number 2 on the entire Bandcamp website for a couple of days. And I think this one, I think it's a better album, and I think you guys are going to like it. But I think we can get this one to number 1 and take over Bandcamp. I think we can do that. That would be freaking awesome, and it would really help get this music out there so that people can find us. It'll bring people in and be like, whoa, I discovered Tech Syndicate through the music, so it's another outlet for that. And for all of you guys who are still watching, the proceeds, a good portion of the proceeds from the sale of this are not going into my pocket. They are going toward development on a secret project. I'm sure you guys may be able to put 2 and 2 together, but we can't say anything just yet. But yes, going toward the development. They're actually paying for man hours for development. Good. So yeah. Thanks again, everybody. That's the end of the episode. The second take, I guess it's about as good as the first take. I don't know, the first take was good. But you guys will never know because you can't see the first take. It was destroyed in a blaze of something, I don't know. It was destroyed by a mechanical spinning rust pile. Alright guys, see you in the comments on the website, and please let us know what you guys think of the video, the content. Future's a very bright place to be. And please let me know what you guys think of the latest album. I worked really hard on it, so it means a lot to me if you guys like it. See you guys later.